You're listening to the RM Podcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
No. It's not another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. We are actually taking a night off because I'm working tonight. Not right now because I'm taping this, recording it ahead of time. But yeah, that's right. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, and I'm alongside nobody else. Because, like I said, we're not doing a show tonight. We do have something special in store, though. We are obviously going to give you all the reviews that we promised, which the big one on the block this past week was Ant-Man Quantumania. And we have quite a review there, as well as a discussion for next week. But we also have our one of the two remaining Oscar noms that we haven't covered for the Best Picture yet. And that happens to be our review of Triangle of Sadness. And I have to be honest with you, thank God Keith is here to review the movies that we don't want to watch ourselves. This is none other than, I can guarantee you, a nom for the sake of wokeness. Safe to say that. You'll find out in his review. So after you check out the Ant-Man review, you may not want to stick around. Perfectly okay with that. But we do have, as promised, both those reviews, the one being the big boy on the block, the next Marvel hit to hit theaters with, how many number are... This is kicking off Phase 5. Just so many out there. And we also have, yes, like I just said, Triangle of Sadness. The last one being Women Talking, which will be next week with our other review, Cocaine Bear. So you want to stick in for that. But here is none other than our review of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Is there any hope left for the MCU? After a series of lackluster films, woke agendas, and some terrible offerings on Disney Plus that consisted of 8 works across film and television in 2022, the shining star that was Marvel is now fading. To count them up, there were 3 movies released last year, with 3 series and 2-hour-long specials, released on Disney Plus in 2022. 2021 previously saw the release of 4 films and 5 series, and we know outside of Ant-Man and the Wasp this year, we will receive at least 2 more films and 2 more series. Now Feige has stated that they are focused on releasing less content at once this year, but the damage is done. And Quantumania, which promised to be a true kickstart to Kang and the Multiverse Saga, after the other 5 failed kickstarts to the Multiverse Saga, has failed to impress. Directed by Peyton Reed, who helmed Ant-Man 1 and 2, as well as seeing the return of Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, and Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne, aka the Wasp. Also returning are Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer, with newcomers to the franchise Katherine Newton, taking on the role of Scott's daughter Cassie Lang, and Jonathan Majors as the infamous Kang. When the whole Lang, Pym, Van Dyne family gets sucked into the quantum realm, Janet's past comes back to haunt her. Now they must find a way out and save themselves from Kang the Conqueror, who also seeks to escape the quantum realm after being exiled there. But his escape could mean catastrophe for the multiverse. I didn't hate this film, but it in no way brought me any of the joy seeing Paul Rudd as Ant-Man brought me in any previous Marvel film. In fact, I could argue that the Ant-Man films themselves have progressively gotten worse, much as the MCU has started to do. Yes, all the major actors return, but they no longer feel like real, living, breathing people, but are now reduced to nothing more than the archetypes of their characters. Newton replaces Emma Furman from Endgame as Cassie, presumably because Marvel wanted a bigger name in the role as she begins to take on a bigger part of the story, and also presumably goes on to become the superhero stature from the comics. Yet Newton brings nothing to the role. It's understandable wanting a more qualified actor to step in for a more substantial role, but Newton offers nothing Furman couldn't have done as well. Likewise, outside of just being genuinely humorous and entertaining, Rudd brings nothing to the table as the lead, nor do any of the veteran actors. The dynamic between Scott, Hank, and Hope was a well-crafted one with humor and heart in the first film, but the chemistry was lost in the second and is now completely dead in Quantumania. So much so, I no longer cared if any of these characters lived or died. With no emotional depth and lackluster comedy, some hope may have been found in the story, which introduces Majors as Kang and finally opens up the MCU to the wider scheme of what he intends to do with the multiverse. Except while not poorly acted, I didn't find Majors Kang threatening. And all we get about his sinister plan is he wants to conquer and roll over the multiverse, which the film mostly piggybacks off of Loki to explain, leaving any viewers who haven't viewed the show left out when it comes to the bigger overarching story. The film itself offers no depth on the subject, barely moving the multiverse saga's story forward at all. It may have been an excellent way to introduce Kang and the multiverse if this was the first film of Phase 4. But it's Phase 5 and we are 8 films and 10 stories deep. Overall, I don't think Quantumania is the worst film Marvel has put out amongst Phase 4 and 5, but on average, even the best films of Phase 4 and 5 are only as good as some of the Infinity Saga's worst. Touted as such a tentpole film to the Multiverse Saga, it not only misses the mark, but if this is supposed to be the Winter Soldier or Civil War of the Multiverse Saga, it's a clear indicator that maybe it's time Marvel took a breather for a while. I give Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania 2 out of 4 stars.
There you have it. Our review of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Of course, we're going to do a deep dive next week when everybody's back. We'll give you probably, I can tell you my opinion right now. Didn't like it. Hated it. Thought it was bad. Terrible, terrible, terrible movie. I'll do a deep dive on that next week. I don't think those two, they necessarily agree with me. They thought it was a little bit better. But, well, you just heard Keith's official review, so you know what he thought. But again, before we get to our last review, we're going to be back next week, normal time, right here live on YouTube and Facebook and all the favorite social media. Like, share, subscribe, follow us. We appreciate it. All the love you give us every single week, guys. But yes, here's our final review for the night, Triangle of Sadness.
Spielberg has claimed Tom Cruise saved Hollywood's ass with the release of Top Gun: Maverick, a film that has earned a Best Picture nom at this year's Oscars. Triangle of Sadness, another nominee for Best Picture, is the reason Hollywood's ass needed saving to begin with. A movie that flew under most people's radar, except for those huge into the indie scene, and winner of the Palme d'Or at Cannes Film Festival, Triangle of Sadness has been labeled by critics the funniest film of the year, and even promoted itself as a brilliantly scathing takedown of the wealthy and beautiful, in that it puts privilege through the ringer. Ah yes, a tone-deaf film making fun of the rich and elite, used to virtue signal while the creators of the film fail to acknowledge they are the rich and the elite. Because there's nothing more fun than Hollywood making fun of themselves while not actually making fun of themselves. Directed by Ruben Östlund, starring a group of no-names and Woody Harrelson as the captain, Triangle of Sadness predominantly follows male model Carl and his girlfriend, influencer, and model Yaya. Making jokes about gender expectations and pay inequality, the movie begins in a somewhat witty manner where Carl, a male model, makes significantly less than his girlfriend, a female model, yet is still expected to adhere to gender norms such as paying for dinner when she obviously makes the most money. Sounds like a laugh riot, right? The film continues on with them receiving an invite to a luxury cruise in exchange for Yaya using the cruise to promote the company. Full of the rich and beautiful, the film takes time to lambaste the vapidness of the elite, before turning the tables as a storm causes the liner to sink, leaving the blue-collar workers and the ship's crew in charge of the wealthy snobs. It's clear Östlund thinks he's saying a lot more than he actually is, and the film's claim that it's a scathing takedown of the wealthy and beautiful is laughable. Just like the gender disparity jokes that run through the movie, it's clear Hollywood doesn't get that they are the rich and elite, and that the very things they are joking about are not only nonsensical, but proves the point they are trying to make wrong. While parts of the film are admittedly hilarious and Woody Harrelson gives a very entertaining performance, none of it's unique or new. Harrelson generally is always entertaining, and his dry, sarcastic delivery does well in an environment where the character is mocking the stupidity of the people in his care, which only showcases the overall poor quality of the film, because what's funny isn't the stereotypical dunce snobby elite acting like stereotypical dunce snobby elite, but in the universal aspect in which people can relate with having to deal with the stupidity of humanity in general. An example, the trailer showcases a scene where a silly rich lady asks the captain to wash the boat's sails, to which he points out the boat is a motorized cruise liner. When the dumb rich lady cannot gasp motorized boats don't have sails, he reluctantly agrees to wash the sails, knowing it doesn't matter anyway. The scene is humorous not because I believe rich people are too stupid not to know cruise liners don't have sails, but because as someone who once worked retail, you do get all kinds of people who ask nonsensical things despite the fact that common sense says they should know better. The universal angle is what's funny. Sadly, the comedy and film is very rarely universal, and ultimately comes off as a lame attempt at Hollywood to try and seem relatable while still preaching about how happiness is the only thing that matters, and in the end, everyone should live how they want to live, while also forming them to conform to a specific viewpoint. It's more pretentiousness that thinks itself smarter than it really is, which at this point is the official theme all movies must have to be nominated for an Oscar. I give Triangle of Sadness 1.5 out of 4 stars.
There you have it. Another woke movie to add to the ones you don't need to watch or waste your time with. Keith came over to record the review, funny enough, and he was like, he's like, just watch the trailer. Just watch the trailer. So I pulled it up while he was here, and from the moment it started, I was like, I don't want to watch this movie. And he's like, yeah. He's like, you get the gist of it. So I told him, I said, thank you for doing the review. Thank you for going through the trouble for my sake, for Red Moon's sake, and for our viewers' sake to just review this movie and say it's not worth your time. It's not. So you don't have to watch it. It's clearly there's a reason and a bias as to why it was nominated. And honestly, I have a feeling, I don't know for sure, and I probably will watch next week our last Best Picture review of Women Talking. I'll probably go ahead and watch it, but I have a feeling it's in the same vein. That's the reason it was nominated. So we're just now in that period of Oscar season where we've reviewed all the best ones that probably deserved it. Not very many this year. Of course, we're getting ever closer to the Oscar show itself. And, we'll give you our picks. We'll let you know what we want to win and what we think will win. That show's coming up in a few weeks here, right before the Oscar show itself. But until then, that's going to do it for us tonight. I know, just 2 simple reviews, not a full show, guys. But that's okay. We're going to be back next week, like I said, live every single Tuesday, except for this one, 9 p.m. on all of your favorite social medias out there. Just jump on, like, share, subscribe. Appreciate all the love you give us. Email us at rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com. Wish Keith was here to say that. But for me, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and of course, Sean Sebastian, or Vanilla Steam, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.